The following program does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the staff, management, or ownership of this station.
The following pre-recorded program is brought to you by Vertuvian, a Texas-based registered investment advisor.
Now, let the uprising begin.
There are only two genders, and one of them is right here. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
Hello, hello, hello. Once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there, you're listening to the Angela Box Show, the girl with all the first world problems. How are you? Okay, lots going on this week. I promise I'm not going to delve into Meghan Markle this week. I promise. Because she's not doing anything. And she's boring me. But I am going to talk very, very briefly about the Karen Reid trial. You're like, I've been waiting for that. Before I do that, though, Stephen, I have some first world problems for you. So today I was rushing around, and it's, it was one of those days that it's just been like Murphy's Law. Everything's gone shenanigans today with the recording and all kinds of stuff. And we had to come into a different studio to tape today because the phones weren't working. It was like, oh my God, so many first world problems. And we're going to have a really great guest in the second segment. Her name is Kelsey Pritchard from Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. We just taped her segment, and I was like, girl, so many shenanigans going on. But we were able to get that done. But my real first world problem, and this is the one that's super important, Stephen. Stephen hasn't smelled me yet today because if he did, he would be coughing because I a little bit overdid it on the perfume. I was like, let me get my Chanel, the green one. It's so good. And I did 4 sprays. Yes, and I am someone who hates a perfume bomb. And there's a funny story about this person I used to be friends with. Her name is Beth. She wore this horrible perfume. I called it Beth's perfume, and it was so overwhelming and so overpowering. It was like patchouli based, with a hint of spice, and she just loaded it on. Now, to be fair, I don't know what the damn perfume is called. And I've smelled it on other people before, and every time I do, I'm coughing visibly in front of them to give them a clue that their perfume is overwhelming. Today, I have a bit of that problem, and I'm making myself cough. So, Stephen, consider yourself warned. Do not get within 2 feet of me, otherwise you're going to be coughing and moving your hand across your face girl, lay off the perfume. So, anyway, that's my first world problem for you today. That my Chanel perfume is overwhelming me. I mean, you guys, I know, please. Okay, so the Karen Reid trial, real quick. I made a list. I'm still watching this thing gavel to gavel, fascinated with the level of dumb that I'm subjected to every day, the amount of pretzel twisting the Karen Reid fans are twisting themselves into to make it so that their little theory makes sense, that John's really good friends just, beat the hell out of him, and as he walked into the door and nobody saw him walk in, but yet he got beaten, and then they put his body outside. The level of dumb that we're dealing with, okay? So I made a list of 30 things, or 30 people, or inanimate objects, or animals that would have to be in on this conspiracy. I'm not going to read all 30 to you. But I was like, this is crazy to me that people still are like, no, she didn't do it. Today, though, as I'm taping on Wednesday, the defense, it was a little bit of a womp-womp for the defense because this really renowned brain surgeon got on the stand. And I mean, this guy, I was like, oh, good luck trying to impeach this witness that basically said, yeah, He hit his head on a hard surface, and all these injuries were caused by that. And P.S., had he been brought to the hospital earlier, he might have been able to be saved because what killed him was hypothermia, obviously. And the defense gets up there and literally 3 questions. I've never seen these obnoxious lawyers be shut down so quickly, which I was like, mwah, chef's kiss. Thank you, Commonwealth, for putting on that witness because that basically is the case. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff. Okay. See, no Meghan Markle. Oh, something I'm watching, Stephen. Your Friends and Neighbors. The new John Hamm thing. Now, I know some of you listening are like, John Hamm is a pig. He very well may be a pig. He is recently, there's been a story recently about him He went to UT, Austin. And let me just say this. John Hamm is a charmed life mofo like you've never seen. Gorgeous, sexy, smart, good. I mean, just like he got all the check marks, right? So when he was in a fraternity at UT Austin, there were some serious hazing allegations. Not just, and I was telling Fred this. He was like, because his fraternity got kicked off campus of SMU for similar things. But he's like, we didn't even do anything that bad. I'm like, okay. Probably, people get very sensitive. He was like, there was like a lesbian in charge of all the Greeks, and that's why she kicked us off. She hated us. I'm like, that may be true. But the hazing allegations against John Hamm are horrific. Like, there was a pledge, like, they just all beat the hell out of him and kicked him so hard that he had kidney failure or, like, crazy stuff. And the man evidently is a lawyer now in Houston. I'm not going to say his name. Don't want to out him like that. But John Hamm, evidently. And, y'all, look, I'm the heart wants what the heart wants and all that stuff, Woody Allen. But I do think it's kind of crappy of him. He was dating this one lady for about 14 years, a woman named Jennifer Westfeld, who was a filmmaker in her own right. She was an actress. And she kind of, like, got him his start and stuff. And stuck by him when he was like, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids, and that's just not what I want to do, but, like, stuck by him as his career blossomed, and he got Mad Men, and he became very famous, and then he, like, dumped her, like, the last season of Mad Men, and started dating a 25-year-old, who worked on the show, who had, like, a very, very bit part. And now he's like, he married this girl, and now he's like, I think I want to have babies. I'm like, oy vey. So, it's a tricky thing. But your Friends and Neighbors is very good. All this is to say, your Friends and Neighbors is good. Apple TV is really hit or miss, but this one's good. Obviously, Severance is phenomenal if you've not seen Severance. Like, what are you doing? What are you waiting on? But your Friends and Neighbors is good. I'd give it a solid B+, A-. Like, I'm not even mad at it at all. Like, it's decent. And for me to give it a B+, it's pretty good. I'm pretty picky. Okay, let's talk about some stuff and things. As I tape the show, you guys, this is so good. Trump gives 0 Fs, okay? He brings the South African president right now, Stephen, in the White House, in the Oval Office right now. The South African president, some, genocide-loving guy who doesn't have a problem with white Afrikaners being murdered for their land, and he's like a literal communist. Like, he's like, yes, we must take the land of the white Boer. We must reconfiscate the land. It's like, okay. And anyway, so obviously last week there was a big controversy about the 49 Afrikaners who came to this country invited by Trump. So as we speak right now, the South African president is sitting in the Oval Office. Let me get his name. I want to shame him too. What's his name? Okay. His name is South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Right now, President Trump is forcing him to sit through the rally, the Kill the Boer rally, that was like tens of thousands of black South Africans there, like all shouting Kill the Boer, which means kill the white man, forcing him to sit through this. And, Marco Rubio the other day, someone was getting on him about, the Afrikaners who you brought over. I think it was, Chris Van Hollen, that scumbag who, never forget, just 3 weeks ago was in El Salvador having margaritas with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 wife beater, who he desperately wanted to bring back. As Marco Rubio said, you were over there having margaritas with a human trafficker, so have all the seats. But Chris Van Hollen's like, how dare you approve the visas for these people? And Marco Rubio's like, you don't like them because they're white. Like, let's keep it 100 here. Like, I would have so much more respect for these people if they would just tell the truth. We don't like white people. We think America is too white. Okay, we can have that debate, but, thank you, Western civilization, which was primarily made up of white people, for having the ability to even sit there and talk about how you don't like white people. Like, it's because of white people you get to sit there and have your free speech. and your ability to go out and make a living in the free market. That's because of white people, okay? Sorry, it is. So you can have your little meltdown about the 49 Afrikaners like all you want, but I think it is chef's kiss delicious that President Trump is forcing this guy to sit through that video. I mean, I cannot wait to go home and watch this. Like, it's going to be priceless. All right, let's talk about, we're definitely going to get into the Biden stuff, maybe in my third segment, but I'm going to tease it for you here, okay? The people that did this coup of 2020, they're in a lot of trouble, all right? Now, I will say this, that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, I think they gave a really big interview with Maria Bartiromo last Sunday. And she was like, well, what's up with the Epstein files and this and that? And they were like, listen, we saw the files. It was a suicide. And people are like, what are you talking about? Like, the guy's hyaloid bone was broken 3 places. There was missing video of the time he was suicided. Like, what are you even saying? And so a lot of people are like, well, one of 2 things is going on here. Either they got fooled, and the people that are in the FBI that are dirty showed them, like, very basic information and blah, 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 or they're pretending. Well, I should say 3 things. Maybe he really did kill himself, and all those coincidences are just coincidences. Like, I don't believe that for a second, but okay. But what if the FBI, in their quest to clean everything out, is telling the deep staters what, don't worry about that. Like, it's totally cool. Like, he totally killed himself. And also, those assassination attempts where both of these would-be assassins, like, had encrypted files with, like, several messaging services, and they were communicating with people from Ukraine. Like, don't worry about that. Like, it was totally, like, just a lone thing. That's kind of what they're saying right now. I think it's a setup. I think it's a sting, but, I mean, if it's not, I'm going to be super mad. All this is to say is the FBI has a big problem, and the people that covered up what was going on with Joe Biden are in big trouble. We'll get to that in the third segment. Second segment, we've got Kelsey Pritchard with Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. Stick around with that because she's going to talk about the big, beautiful bill defunding Planned Parenthood. You're listening to Angela Box Show. We'll be right back.
Infuriating the far left, Democrats, socialists, and communists. It's Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer. It's conservative, air combat, armed and ready. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
Welcome back to the Angela Box Show. Y'all, we've been having some serious first world problems this morning, but I'm very happy to have this guest on the line because I want her on to talk about, hopefully and finally, defunding the baby killing organization, Murder, Inc., known as Planned Parenthood. Welcome, Kelsey Pritchard with Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life. Let's talk, girl.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Angela.
You're welcome. Okay, so as we speak, the big, beautiful bill is making its way through committee and then Congress, and there's drama with that because of the SALT deductions. But tell me about what you know about maybe what's going to go on with the funding of Planned Parenthood right now.
Yeah, so there is a provision in the big, beautiful bill that would take away the Medicaid funding that Planned Parenthood and abortion businesses in this country currently receive. Right now, Planned Parenthood gets about $529 million per year just in Medicaid funding. And, of course, that enables them, allows them to do more than 400,000 abortions every single year and allows them to continue to harm women in this country. So that is currently in the bill. We know that the bill is, I believe it's still in the Rules Committee right now, and the Speaker wants the House to take it up for a vote soon after. So we're hopeful that that bill will pass with that defunding provision, and it could pass as early as today or later this week.
That sounds fantastic. I was wondering if this was going to be in the bill. And, you know, what's great is that President Trump seems to be following through on pretty much everything he ran on, which is really interesting to see. What's your take on the first few months from a pro-life stance of what President Trump has done?
I would say right at the beginning, week one, we saw so many encouraging things from President Trump. He pardoned the pro-life prisoners, people who had been peacefully demonstrating in front of abortion centers and were thrown into jail by the Biden DOJ. He pardoned them right away. He also reenacted what people know as the Mexico City policy, which is the global protect life rule. That means if you're a foreign entity that performs abortions, you're no longer going to get tax money from Americans for family planning services. So he enacted that. And then he also enacted the Hyde Amendment, which the Biden administration had taken off and removed. He enacted that again, which says that federal tax money should not directly pay for abortion. Now, Medicaid, of course, is their workaround because we know that money is fungible, so they continue to get Medicaid money, and that allows them to continue to keep their abortion businesses open.
That's very interesting that Medicaid seems to be the hitch into how Planned Parenthood continues to get federal funding. And I'm curious, do you have any insider information on who might be trying to stop this? I mean, obviously all the Democrats are going to vote against it, but are there any Republicans who are pushing back on this?
Overall, Republicans have been pretty strong and enthused to get this done, which has just been a very encouraging thing. We have people who've been lobbying Capitol Hill for months on this, and we've got a good relationship with the speaker and others. And overall, I would say they're on board and they want to get this done. There are a handful of moderates who've complained and who have been public. Mike Lawler is one of them. And so there are a few of those people who, have complained about this and been really wishy-washy, even though they've called themselves pro-life in the past. So we have a few of those folks, but we're pretty hopeful overall. I think the biggest thing is that there's so much in this bill, so many priorities, so many things, that we just have to keep this defunding provision in there. We have to keep it front and center for our members and to let them know that this is important. You've got to keep this in the bill. You got to get this done this year.
Yeah, I think it's, let's publicly shame these moderates, so-called moderates, that think that the taxpayers of America, whether it's through Medicaid or whatever, should be funding baby killing. So, I'm glad that let's name them and shame them. Let's pivot a little bit to something Kennedy said the other day or a couple weeks ago. Kennedy, RFK Jr., is not, known as a pro-life stalwart, but I think his transformation is kind of getting remarkable to watch. And he brought something up a couple weeks ago, that the abortion pill that now accounts for, I don't know what percentage of abortion, but after the Dobbs decision, unfortunately, abortion seems to have gone up using the abortion pill. But a couple of weeks ago, Kennedy said, there are lots of health issues with the abortion pill. What are some of them? We have about 3 minutes. So what are some of the issues that women could experience if they choose to use the abortion pill?
Well, as many as 1 in 10 women, they go to the ER after taking the abortion drug, and that's because oftentimes they experience extreme pain, extreme hemorrhaging. The abortion businesses will say, it'll be like a heavy period. That is not what a lot of women experience. They bleed and bleed for days, sometimes 30 days or more. And if you have an ectopic pregnancy and you take the abortion drug, you're putting yourself in physical danger because it doesn't work for ectopic pregnancies. You have to go in and be treated for that. And in some instances, it has killed women. There was a young woman. She had a 1-year-old son in Nevada, and she developed sepsis very soon after taking the abortion drug, and she died. And so, of course, the abortion lobby, Planned Parenthood, tries to bury those stories, but there are women who have died because of these drugs. Of course, they almost always end the life of the unborn child, but they've ended lives of women too.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America is on the forefront of these things because, the goal is to educate women on human life and when the baby develops and all these things. And I was looking on Facebook the other day, and there was this very sweet picture of a baby that was born premature at 22 weeks. And what is so sad is that after the Dobbs decision, unfortunately, the blue states have seemed to gone even more radical in they want abortion up to birth. And 22 weeks is less than 6 months. And it's heartbreaking. And it's like, it's a good news, bad news thing. How do you combat the propaganda out there with the blue states in the last minute or so we have?
Yeah, we have a tale of two Americas, really. You've got wonderful states like Texas that protect life and conception, and then you have states that are like Illinois and Colorado that allow abortion at any point. And, truth has been flipped on its head. Evil has been portrayed as good. And so, people need to understand, not only the basic pro-life arguments, but the science, the reality. So many things that we know about life in the womb now, like heartbeat begins at 6 weeks, a baby can feel pain at 15 weeks. And so many of these basic facts, people just need to look it up for themselves, learn for themselves. Don't believe the misinformation, the lies from the abortion lobby.
Well, how can people find out everything what you're doing, Kelsey? Because it's a great cause, and Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America is the largest, correct me if I'm wrong, pro-life organization in the country doing lobbying to stop the abortion of unborn children.
Yeah, we're the top national political pro-life group in engaging with lobbying on the Hill and the national elections. And you can find us at sbaprolife.org. We also have a podcast called Expose Abortion in America, and we've got a season out now exposing some of the horrors of Planned Parenthood.
Wow, fantastic, Kelsey. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, thanks. God bless, Angela.
All right, you're listening to Angela Box Show. We'll be right back.
You've tuned into the right place for conservatism. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer. Hey, fellow patriots and filthy leftist stalkers. It's Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
Okay, I need to make a correction. It was not Chris Van Hollen that Marco Rubio said you don't like them because they're white. Although, if you have not seen the exchange of Marco Rubio and Chris Van Hollen, I highly recommend going to look at it. Because Chris Van Hollen gets up there and monologues for 7 minutes. Like, oh, just poor, pitiful me. Like, it's so gross. It was Tim Kaine that he had the exchange with. Tim Kaine, who was Hillary Clinton's, running mate. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, I promise we're going to get to the Biden stuff. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, I wish I had asked Kelsey this question. Hillary Clinton, again, they don't like white people, okay? They act like that we have not, imported the third world into Western countries for the last few decades. Not just America, but all over. And when we look at who is actually pushing this, that's where it's going to get interesting, because there's been a globalist push. Soros, World Economic Forum, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, whatever, the Illuminati that they mock and pretend that there's not a new world order, people running stuff, the Bilderberg Group, whatever. We're going to come to find out that this has been a coordinated attack on Western civilization. They don't like Western civilization, and they know that to flood the borders with the third world, to open everything up to the third world, to people who have no desire to assimilate, who do not respect coming here legally, or do not respect American culture or British culture or French culture. They want to blend the countries. That is globalism, okay? It is a coordinated thing that's been going on. Now, Hillary Clinton said the other day, I'm paraphrasing, she said, it is just gross that President Trump wants to tell people that want to have children in this country, like reward people for having babies in this country. Trump didn't say, oh, we just want to reward the white people for having babies. No, we want to reward Americans for having babies, because right now Americans are not reproducing enough. They're just not. And so because of economic reasons, and because of the push by the left to demonize having children, the push by the left to demonize motherhood, basically, to young women. All right, so the replacement is not keeping up with what we need to be as a functioning country. Japan is dealing with the same issue. So Trump says, hey, we would like to reward people for having babies. Savings accounts, give them like $5,000 tax credit, things like that. So Hillary Clinton goes out and she's like, again, they just don't want white people. They just don't want white people, because white people don't vote for Democrats unless you're a blue-haired tranny type. Anyway, she said, that's what immigrants are for. immigrants come over and they have lots of kids. It's like, okay, again, we want native-born Americans and people who come here legally who want to be Americans, not American hyphen something else, or, Latino Americans or whatever the hyphens they all want to do. We want people that want to be Americans to come in and reproduce. So that's all Trump is saying. Like, Satan's muse, again, have all the seats. Okay. Let's talk about Biden, because this is a massive, massive cover-up that's going on. This week, we find out, hot on the heels of the Robert Hur tapes finally being released. Robert Hur, of course, was special counsel appointed by the Biden administration. They're like, well, he's a Republican, so, he said that Joe Biden shouldn't be prosecutor because he's an a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Again, like, how much would that fly if that was Trump? Anyway, it would not, ladies and gentlemen. So, hot on the heels of them releasing the Robert Hur tapes, the DOJ, it was not a slow news weekend, y'all. It was like Friday night dump. There was all kinds of fun stuff that I guarantee the news media did their best to punt on. Didn't watch it, don't care, but I guarantee they tried to just sideswipe that and pretend it didn't happen. So the tapes were released, and it was like, holy crap, this guy's president of the United States doesn't know when his son died. The son that he always uses as an excuse to, I just didn't know what was going on. My son just died. It's like, Mr. President, your son died in 2015. It's funny. I remember when Beau Biden died because I was working at the time for a political consultant, and we were like, licking our chops because Beau Biden was going to run for governor of Delaware. And the person I worked for had a client that was also going to run for governor of Delaware if Beau Biden had run. And it would have been a very high-profile case. I'm not saying he would have won, but it would have been interesting. And so I know it was like not 2017. Joe Biden thought his kid died in 2017, 2018. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, that's why he had hoarded all these classified documents. He was all wrapped up in his grief for his son. So on the one hand, he doesn't remember salient details about his life, but on the other hand, he's cagey enough to be able to use the death of his son in order to get out of having repercussions for hoarding classified documents. And to this day, we still don't know what those classified documents were. Okay? Like President Trump, when he had the classified documents that he said at the end of his term, I have declassified all these things. I have them at Mar-a-Lago. He was working with NARA to replace the files, but that wasn't good enough for the FBI because they sent a SWAT team in to rifle through all of his stuff and to produce fake pictures of pretending that Donald Trump had, oh, look at this file. This is classified. It's like, it's a folder, jackasses. Okay. It's a folder. Okay. It's a folder and you're trying to make hay where there's no hay. All right. But Joe Biden has classified documents here, there, and everywhere. And it could be in the thousands, and no one seems to have any compunction of like, what are these documents? Can we talk about it? So wait, my point is that he's cagey enough to use his son's death to when it benefits him. But overall, that was a train wreck of an interview. And it just shows how much deference was given to this cagey old criminal, Joe Biden. Disgusting. Hot on the heels of that, of course, it was like, let's release the cancer diagnosis. And they want you to think that this is how dumb we are. We're just dumb. Like, people who understand anything about cancer, my father died of pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is a very fast-acting cancer, okay? You get pancreatic cancer, you can mitigate it for a couple years, but you're going to die of it, and it's going to be relatively quick. Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Now, every man from about 40 years old on, when they go in for their annual physical, unless you don't see a doctor regularly, there's no way that you're not getting tested for prostate cancer. Your PSA levels, whatever, the thumb up the butt, whatever the boys have to go through. Both women and men have to go through invasive things after a certain age, okay? So anyway, the cough, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the cough thing, isn't that something to do with the prostate? When they tell you to cough, sort of? I'm not sure. Okay, maybe that's a hernia thing, but it's a hernia thing. Okay, but my point is, from the age of 30 to 40 on, you're getting tested if you're a man, if you have, regular medical care. The President of the United States had regular medical care, I'm fairly certain, by a nebbish-looking dweeb doctor by the name of Kevin O'Connor, who evidently is such a crackerjack doctor. He was not testing Joe Biden for prostate cancer, even though the risk of prostate cancer increases as a man gets older. Like, I don't know what happened. So my point is this. Prostate cancer is a very common cancer in men. It's also very easily detectable. It's also easily treatable if you catch it early enough. And the media and the Democrat Party and the Joe Biden administration want you to think that somehow all these people that were watching Joe Biden fall up the stairs, all these people that were in charge of his health, of the President of the United States, did not catch that he had prostate cancer, and that all of the sudden they release a diagnosis that basically he's dying in less than 6 months. A 9 on this Gleason scale thing, and means it's metastasized to his bones. Okay? That means he's had it for a long, long, long time. In fact, in 2022, Joe Biden admitted he had cancer, and people at the time were like, oh, no, he just misspoke because he's a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. I forgot I had cancer. I forgot I wasn't supposed to talk about it. In 2022, he's talking about cancer funding and, how he and Jill set up a cancer foundation, which BT dubs, it was just another grift for the Biden crime family because they were getting, there was like no money going to cancer research. It was like 98% went to salaries, okay? Like, these people suck. Anyway, in 2022, he, like, basically admitted, I've got cancer. And everyone's like, what? What do you mean you have cancer? Oh, never mind. He misspoke. Because, that's old Joe. That's old Lunchbox Scranton Joe. He has a stutter. It's a stutter kicking up again. Anyway, this is where it's going to get interesting and where the rubber shall hit the road. The DOJ is going to be looking into all of these auto pen pardons. And Tim Burchett, Representative Burchett, I don't know where he's from, but I have it in my notes. I'm just going off the top of my head here. Tim Burchett let the cat out of the bag. Bombshell little statement he said was that there were sitting leaders, congresspeople, etc., that basically bought pardons with the auto pen. So Joe Biden was not running the White House. Joe Biden was being run by somebody. And remember Joe Biden saying things like when they would let him out of, give him a quick nap and then let him talk to the press for 5 minutes before he wandered off. And remember they had to have pre-approved questions, and Joe Biden had note cards that he read off of. But sometimes Joe Biden went off script. And he said, they won't let me talk about that. And everyone's like, well, who's they? Who's they? So much evidence that Joe Biden was not running the White House. Like, nobody thinks this guy was, okay? So the auto pen is going to be a big problem for them. It's going to be a big problem for these people who got pardons using an auto pen because that is illegal to do. And the DOJ is looking into that. Also, the media. The media pretending with a straight face that they did not know that Joe Biden was not Copus Mentis, okay? We had to pretend, we had to sit through 4 years of an old man wandering off into to the ether and trailing off his speech and not being able to put 2 sentences together and then, say, anyway. we all watched it, okay? And yet they want to tell us that they just, they don't know anything about it. We'll pick this up when we get back in the last segment. You're listening to Angela Box Show.
Standing up for what's right. This is the Angela Box Show on the Big 1070. The Answer. Fighting for the conservative cause. It's the box that rocks. Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
So Jake Tapper and some loser from Axios have a book to sell. It's called Original Sin. Basically how the Biden administration, the crackerjack team, running Joe Biden, were so smart, you guys. Like, the gay black immigrant woman, Karine Jean-Pierre, and the Ginger Goebbels, Jen Psaki, like, they were so genius at, like, telling the media that everything was okay, and we just didn't know. We didn't know. It's like, really? Because there are supercuts of videos of all of you saying that how anytime some right-wing person or somebody just with eyes to see and ears to hear would say, hey, Joe Biden doesn't seem like he's all together here. And who's running the country? There are supercut videos of all of you a-holes telling us that we were crazy. And we have ageism. Yeah, we should have ageism because Joe Biden, he is sharp as a tack. I tell you right now, Joe Biden is sharper than he's ever been. That's what Elizabeth Warren said. That's what Joe Scarborough said. That's what Jake Tapper said. Okay, so now Jake Tapper's basically trying to sell a book, and he's going around, and what's gross is that on Amazon, at least, I don't know about the New York Times, listen, New York Times bookseller list, they buy up so many copies of these books to put these books over the top on the New York Times bestseller list. But evidently on Amazon, there's a bunch of dumb leftists stupid enough to go buy this book and be like, I guess they want to be told that it's okay. It's okay that, we basically were standing for Joe Biden because we were all lied to, because that's how smart the White House was. The Biden White House was so brilliant in covering up the truth. Okay, please. Please. So Tapper goes on Megyn Kelly's show the other day. I haven't seen it yet. I will watch it, but basically Megyn Kelly was like, how stupid do you think we are? I know you're trying to sell a book, Jake, but nobody believes you. Nobody thinks that y'all didn't know. You were part of the cover-up media. That's why the American people can't stand the media, because you knew. You always knew. You knew in 2019 when he said he was going to run. He wasn't the Joe Biden of old, okay? We all knew it. You kept him in the basement so he couldn't answer questions. You covered up for his ridiculous gaffes about, if you don't vote for me, as he's doing a Zoom call, because of COVID, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Just the amount of things that you want us to excuse, it's just not logical, okay? Just like it's not logical that Kevin O'Connor, the little dweeb doctor, didn't test Joe Biden for prostate cancer. Nobody believes you. And this is a natural consequences, karma, and action here. I said this, I can't remember when I said this, but, the Biden crime family is donezo, all right? They've grifted to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, but they've also spent to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, thinking that the grift was going to be eternal and be able to go on and on and on, because Joe Biden, he was going to run in 2024, and, the media was going to continue to cover for him, and his staff was going to continue to cover for him. And then it took a little bit of a turn after the debate, after the fundraiser, when George Clooney was like, I love you, Joe Biden, but you need to step down. It took a turn when it became so obvious that he could not, in any universe, say that this guy has it together. So that's when it took a turn. The Biden crime family is getting their karma because, Hunter Biden's going to court saying, that stripper I knocked up with this, I shouldn't say, the beautiful child. She's darling. This ex-stripper, I guess her name is London something. This beautiful little girl named Navy June, I think her name is, Navy June Biden, who Joe Biden doesn't acknowledge as one of his grandchildren. Hunter's going to court. He's like, listen, my splatter paintings aren't selling the way they used to. We don't have any influence to sell anymore, so I'm poor. No one cares. And they're getting exactly what's coming to them. I imagine pretty soon Hunter Biden, if he's not already back on the crack pipe, is going to be back on the crack pipe soon. They're going to go downhill so spectacularly. And, I'm sad that their children and grandchildren are going to reap what they have sown, what their parents and grandparents have sown. But also, I'm not sorry, because this is karma in action. And what we've all witnessed is a man who is not there. And so now for the media to pretend that for the last 5 years and change, that we're all crazy. And the reason that they put all the COVID restrictions in place in the first place was to cover for Joe Biden not being able to draw a crowd because he can't speak off the cuff. He can barely read off a teleprompter without going off into outer space. I mean, that's just one of the reasons they did all the restrictions. But, it's like, Joe Biden's being careful. So we're restricting his campaign appearances, but don't worry, he's great and everything's fine. And, all of you can just could you all just stand in these little circles here? 25 of you. Remember those pictures of the COVID circles where Joe Biden's rallies were so small that they were like, they're just being careful, you guys. Like, Joe Biden's supporters are actually careful, unlike Trump's people who just want to spread COVID around, like those tens of thousands of people going to his rallies. But we care. And, the 25 people that show up, they can stand in this little circle and they care more than you. Okay, the point is, Joe Biden is going down in flames, okay? His legacy is going down in flames. The Autopin scandal is just getting started. People are going to start asking very serious questions about the media. Why did you lie to us? And how long did you know? The question is, they always knew. They always knew, and they were always in on it. Just like, this plausible deniability. I'm pivoting right now. Just like this plausible deniability that the man who helped to create the Russia collusion hoax along with John Brennan and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok and Barack Obama, the first black president, and Hillary Clinton, blah, blah, blah. Jim Comey pretending. This story is wild to me, that this guy thinks he is going to just get such a pass that he thought he could post something that calls for the assassination of Donald Trump, and like the American people in the world would be like, oh, okay, he didn't know. This is, again, stupid. Plausible deniability doesn't exist here. You're telling me that James Comey, who's just, walking with his beautiful bride on the beach in McLean, Virginia, he happened upon this seashell, art installation, I guess, saying 8647, and Jim Comey's like, let me get a picture of that and let me post that. And not saying, wow, I found this. This is very disturbing. This should not be, or maybe not posting it at all. Instead, he posts it and says, this is interesting. This is very interesting. Seems like a political message. I'm not sure what it means, though. I don't know. I mean, I know I was just the FBI director in 2 administrations, and I was just a Marine before that, and, the U.S. attorney somewhere. Like, I know that I've been in law enforcement, like, my entire career, but I didn't know what 86 meant. It's like, listen, any little gangbanger, crack dealer on the streets know what 86 means, okay? Everybody knows what 86 means. It's slang for to kill, okay? So Jim Comey, again, no SWAT teams were showing up at his house at 6 a.m. He was escorted by the Secret Service to talk about, why he posted that. And he's like, I'm sorry, whoops. It was just a whoopsie. No, what it was a call to arms for the people who burned down Tesla dealerships and key cars and scream and rant about Hamas and hate Jewish students on college campuses. It was a call to arms to people, trans Tifa, all the people that I promise you are going to be taken to the streets very soon. For the anniversary of George Floyd, they'll be like, listen, you guys, it's the 5-year anniversary of St. George Floyd and fentanyl. We need to get the band back together. They're going to be doing something, those people. James Comey ain't going to get his hands dirty. He wants someone else to take up the cause of assassinating President Trump. Like, obviously. And you know what's so gross is that Jim Comey gets interviewed by the Secret Service, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. All right? Because he took it. Well, I took it down and I apologized. And it's like he then goes on MSNBC and he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm going to see if I can find this tweet. Comey is trying to spin this as if he is the victim. This is from Clandestine. He claims he is in a, quote, political firestorm because he was simply, quote, walking on the beach with my wife. I was just walking on the beach with my wife, and those MAGA people, they're out to get me. And then John Brennan, that Disney villain, that Star Wars villain with his furrowed brow, he goes on last week with CNN with Caitlin Collins, and he's like, James Comey is a man of impeccable character, and, I don't think he knew what that meant. How do any of us know in law enforcement, lifetime law enforcement, and in the intelligence community, how would any of us know what such a thing meant? So nothing's going to happen to him. And here's the deal. I said at the top of the show about the Epstein stuff and the assassination attempts. I'm going to tell you right now, the American people don't buy any of that. So I hope that this is a sting, and I hope this is a way to make these people feel comfortable, because something's got to give, man. We need to start seeing arrests pretty soon. All right, that's my time, everybody. You've been listening to The Angela Box Show. And I will have many first world problems for you next week, I'm sure. Until next time, everybody, keep kicking ass and taking names. Peace!